I'm Katie White, and this is By the Book, Enhancing Relationships Through Literature. Our mission here at By the Book is to connect people with books that foster personal growth and strengthen relationships with family and friends. We believe the best relationship advice is already out there, and we're here to help you discover it. Today, we have my friend Avery Anderson. Avery and I met at BYU Idaho in the Child and Family Advocacy Society. She's studying marriage and family studies at BYU Idaho and wants to become a consultant for law enforcement agencies and is currently doing an internship with Valley Child Advocacy Center. She also went on the New York trip to the United Nations that I got to go on last month with a group from BYU Idaho, and after that experience and some halal, we're bonded for life.
Let's go halal.
Okay. Well, thanks for being with us today. I really appreciate your time, and I'm excited to have this little chat with you.
Me too.
Alrighty. So before we get into the book, I want to hear a little bit more about your internship and what you want to do after graduation.
Yeah. So this internship with Upper Valley has been... So it just started 2 weeks ago. Now this is my second week that I finished. And it's been really great because I get to go into elementary schools in Jefferson County. That's Rigby, Idaho Falls area. And teach kids about boundary setting and safety and why we have rules and that protect us and what that looks like. So it's developmentally appropriate. So we start off with, like, how to say no when you feel uncomfortable. So thinking and feeling and then acting on those thoughts and feelings in regards to, like, situations that make you feel uncomfortable. And it's been so good to watch these little kids grow, and they're excited, one, because the videos are cool. They have this dog that looks like Bluey, but isn't. And they just, it's... being able to hear them talk about, like, oh, I used my business voice, that mean, like, to make someone stop doing something that made me feel uncomfortable or unsafe. And I used it the other day, actually. I was babysitting kids, and the big brother was taking his the chair that his sister was standing on out from under her. And I was like, stop, that's not safe.
And, business voice, I like it.
Yeah, and you know what? It's so good for kids and us as adults to use that voice because it makes people recognize, like, oh, that's serious. I need to consider what I'm doing here and the implications of it. So, yeah.
That's powerful. Well, very cool. So let's get into the book then. Tell us what book you chose to talk to us about and why.
So I chose Blood Brothers by Elias Chacour, and it was one of three. Like, I was kind of battling between reality, nonfiction and fiction when I was choosing this, just because I think there's some really great messages out there in nonfiction. But this one, it pertains to books that you've already talked about on the podcast, and it is so relevant in today's world right now, and it's relevant in my life as well. So my family's Jewish, and this relationship's and his relationship, the author, it's his story. Elias Chacour, what a cool name, right?
It is a cool name.
Yeah. He's a Christian Palestinian, and living in that circumstance and then having the state of Israel become a Jewish state, he's had to deal with all of these feelings, and a lot of times we don't recognize and listen to people and their thoughts on that, at least the other side of that. And so, it opened my eyes to a lot of things.
I'm excited to hear a little bit more about it. Yeah. Okay, so before we get any more into the book, tell us a little bit about the author. I know you said that they're kind of connected, so feel free to connect them.
So Elias, he grew up in Galilee, and he wrote this book because him and his family had lived through this conflict. And I say, I don't know, I want to be careful with the use of the word conflict, because as he grows in the book, and because he starts from his childhood, and what his childhood and his faith looked like in his childhood, and as his faith develops, so does his understanding, and implementation of forgiveness and reconciliation grow. And yeah, that impacts him and how he views the world.
Okay.
So, yeah.
So this book is his story.
It's his story, yeah.
Okay. Very cool. All right, so next question I have for you is, how did you find the book, or how were you introduced to it?
Yeah, so I was taking international relations, and I was smart. And I was the first one to visit the book list when our professor put it out there, and I was like, I'm reading that book, because I've been to Israel, and I've seen it firsthand, and my family's Jewish, and so many other things like tied to that made me want to read it and see a different perspective. And then my professor and I actually had a really good conversation about it, just the two of us too, because he's from Albania. So yeah, he also understands the implications of World War II a lot more than other people. So, because he lived, and Albania was the last to really get out of Russia overlord-esque rule. So,
wow.
Yeah.
That's so interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Well, very cool. I'm super excited to keep hearing about this book a little bit more. So to our audience, Avery is now going to teach us a mini lesson on a main principle that the book teaches, or main takeaway, and how that relates to relationships. So I'll let you take it from here.
Yeah. So the mini lesson that I took out of this book is that our desire for change and reconciliation and forgiveness starts at the individual level, and with our relationship with ourselves. And I would also argue, as a member of a faith, of a Christian faith, that it's also with God too. And his development, so Elias also becomes a Orthodox Christian priest. So that's also important.
Okay, very cool. So what did he start out as?
So he grew up Christian.
Okay.
Yeah, that's also something that I should address too, is Palestine is not, when we use the word Palestine, that doesn't mean Muslim or Jewish or whatever you associate with that. It's the region of the area, and a lot of people of the Muslim faith have sought refuge in Palestine, and so that makes people associate the two together.
Okay, good to know.
Yeah.
All right, very cool. So he became an Orthodox
priest. Yeah.
Priest. Okay.
Mm-hmm. And he was over actually the whole that whole Galilee area.
Oh wow.
Yeah. So
that's so cool.
Right? The ties to Christ, and he grew up on a fig farm, right next to the Sea of Galilee.
Wow.
So, yeah. So cool.
That would be amazing.
Oh, just imagine. When I went, we went to this orchard, and it had nuts and figs on it, and it was just so cool, just being able to go up to trees and pick this fruit and look at this area and be like, yeah, wow, Jesus literally was here all the time. Yeah. So
that is so cool.
Oh, you should go.
I should go. I should. It's on my bucket list for sure.
You would love it. Yeah. So the main he paints this picture of a fig tree, actually, and it's beautiful because it resonates, I think, with us as Christians. But he paints this picture of a growing fig tree, and how branches of that fig tree, how we graft in branches, and how reconciliation is a part of that, and forgiveness is a part of that, because when we are able to not look past, but look through the pain that others have caused us, we can graft ourselves into the children of God. And He just paints that beautiful picture by really going through his pain and his struggles and coming to terms with what his family went through, because they were displaced, like they were kicked out of their village, so that Jews could move in.
Wow.
Yeah. So it's like, that's hard.
That is hard.
Yeah. But his mother and father's faith really impacted his ability and reflection on all of that. And his desire to seek God and God's comfort in understanding other people's pain and his own pain. So, yeah.
Wow. That's a beautiful story. I'm excited to read it. It's pretty short, right?
Yeah, it's not, I can't remember. It's, honestly, it'd probably take less than a week, 3 days.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. I remember you sending me the picture of the 3 books. You're like, which one should I do? I'm like, I don't know. I don't know these books, but I'm sure they're all great.
They're so good.
Okay, perfect. Well, who would you recommend the book to and why?
I would recommend the book to anyone who honestly has questions about the Palestinian-Israeli conflict, especially with the war going on right now, and who wants to look outside of themselves and honestly seek peace and refuge in God too. One thing that Elias also does in the book is he points out all of these scriptures that he came to while dealing with his own like hard heart, and he's like, God literally is like, we are all his children. Like, it is so blatantly clear. Like the Jews, like we are of Abraham, and our Muslim brothers and sisters are, and if we continue to act like we're not, then we will continue to have this conflict. And it's so much more complicated too than like even Elias goes into, but he does a great job of simplifying it and helping us to see why change is possible. So there's a quote actually that I'd love to read, because
while you're looking that up, I just want to say it sounds like a really powerful perspective to hear from him, someone who's been there, someone who's kind of on the other side of this conflict, because I feel like us as Americans, we see like whatever the news tells us, right? And we get into like little news bubbles of one side or the other. But to hear a perspective of someone who's lived it and someone who's been there, and someone who has a faith that's different than maybe what we're accustomed to, I think sounds just like really beautiful. I think that's the most powerful way to get information, right, is to go to the source, to people who've actually experienced it. So that just makes me want to read the book all the more, just to have that different perspective.
Yeah, that class actually changed my mind on a lot of things, but reading this book too, like on top of all of that, life is complicated. Like,
amen.
Like, I mean, and going to New York, I feel like we experienced that tenfold too. Like, there is so much gray. There's black and white when it comes to some things, but
right.
The world is full of a lot of gray, and that gray and finding truth, that takes effort.
Oh, yeah.
And I don't know, I'm lazy. Like, I want to trust my news sources, but the reality at the end of the day is, like, no matter what, if you trust your news source, you still have to look beyond that. And
yeah.
So, yeah, it's true.
I really love that point of just, like, having to put in the work. Something that Tim Rarick always says. He was on one of the podcasts a few weeks ago. But he always talks about, like, putting in the brain and the spirit sweat to find the truth in things. And like you were saying, like, the whole idea of, like, kind of like being lazy, right? Like, we want there to be a right answer. And I feel like the education system, at least in my experience, teaches you that there is a right answer and there's a wrong answer. Like, you're in a class, you're going to have to take a test. There is a correct answer out of, like, the 4 options or whatever on the bubble sheet, and your job is to choose the right one. And so I feel like in the past, like, year or 2 of my life being in the major, having different experiences with, like, people like you, with people at the UN, with different books that I've read, just, like, having different experiences with a lot of different people and perspectives has helped me learn, like, exactly what you were saying, that there are black and white things, there are truth and lies, but that at the end of the day, life is just not that simple, that there's not always just like, okay, clearly this is the right answer, that we have to do the brain and the spirit sweat to figure out what the best answer is. And even when we find what we think the best answer is, that doesn't necessarily mean that somebody else is going to come to the same conclusion. And we all have to just figure out how to work together to create the best output. So I just really love that principle that you're talking about.
Yeah. And you're going through it right now, and I'm going to be going through it soon too, is like this, our own journey in like finding out what we're going to do and like what we need to do with the knowledge that we have to like our responsibility. Like that's been hitting me really a lot lately, especially after going to New York. I'm like, we have so much responsibility in knowing like what sources we should go to.
Right.
And because if we're going to a Jew to talk about Palestinians, like we're not gonna get the full picture. And if we're going to a Palestinian to talk about Jews, like we're gonna lose 50% of the message, and even then it's not 50%. So.
Yeah. It takes a lot of work to grow up and to learn things and have that responsibility. I was thinking about it the other day, just like how your whole life, you like go to first grade, you go to second grade, you go to third grade, you go to high school, you go to college. Like in our faith, you go on a mission at some point. Like there's all these like kind of prescribed steps for your life. But like you're kind of talking about, like I graduated with my bachelor's degree last week, and you're about to graduate here pretty soon, and it's just like, okay, now I literally, like, the world is my oyster. Like, that's what I just, like, keep thinking again and again of, like, there's literally an infinite amount of things that I could do, but I have to choose one. And it's, like, it's overwhelming to have so many choices. And, like you're saying, like, the responsibility that we now have because of the knowledge that we hold. And that can be really heavy, but I think that, like, what you're saying about, like, there is a way to find the truth in the gray, Like, there's not always, like, a right answer of, like, you should go to this college or this college, but that there can be good no matter what you end up deciding to do when your heart is in the right place.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think, that's the beautiful thing about life, is we get to choose what good we do. Because in the gray paths and areas of life, like, if we are choosing to be kind, and when I say kind, I don't mean like people walk over you. I mean kind in your thoughts towards others, and your understanding, and generous in your learning and your education to difficult things, then that's when you are able to find, I think, the greatest and learn the greatest lessons in life. So, yeah. For sure. And this quote totally goes into what we're talking about. Elias said, if there is a problem somewhere, this is what happens. 3 people will try to do something concrete to settle the issue. 10 people will give a lecture analyzing what the 3 are doing. 100 people will commend or condemn the 10 for their lecture. 1,000 people will argue about the problem. And one person, only one, will involve himself or herself so deeply in the true solution that he is too busy to listen to any of it.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Will you read that again?
Of course. If there is a problem, this is what happens. 3 people will try to do something concrete to settle the issue. 10 people will give a lecture analyzing what the 3 are doing. 100 people will commend or condemn the 10 for their lecture. 1,000 people will argue about the problem, and one person, only one, will involve himself or herself so deeply in the true solution that he is too busy to listen to any of it.
Wow. That's profound. I'm, like, trying to think. I'm like, okay, who am I? Like, in different
Yeah, he asked that
conflicts.
later.
That's powerful.
And I think, I don't know, reflecting on my life, I think we can all see that we're each of those people.
Yeah.
In different moments.
For sure.
Yeah. But.
Well, thank you for sharing that. Is there anything else that you want to add about the book or anything else before we wrap it up?
If you're seeking to love others and to really master that commandment of love thy neighbor, like, read this book and you will begin to see others' testimonies of God and Jesus Christ as solutions. So, yeah.
I love that. Well, thank you so much for taking your time to be with us today, Avery.
Thank you.
Really appreciate it. And to our audience, thank you so much for joining us today on By the Book. We hope that you've enjoyed your time with us. I know I've enjoyed my time with Avery. Really grateful for your insights. The link to the book on Amazon and Audible will be in the show notes. Let us know in the comments if you end up reading the book and your main takeaways. Next week's podcast will be released on Tuesday at 7 a.m. Mountain Standard Time. Please also leave a comment below of other books that you would like to hear about in future episodes or guests you think we should have on. We'll see you next time.